Sunday, September 17th, 2023. Dan Grider, probable cause. Down here at the DC3, I know it's Sunday. I got to get home and make a video. Just want to let you know I'm finishing up about a 5-day stretch, almost 24/7 working on the DC3. Lots of finish up stuff to do here, but I'm going to get this, I'm going to get headed to the house. You know, Sundays is video day. I normally collect all my information for a Sunday night video. I collect it all week long, and then at about noon or 1 o'clock, I jump in there and record a video. I do everything one take. I can do it fast. I got all the material already saved up. I can do it. But for today, I'm going to tell you about the DC3 because this is kind of exciting. The DC3 will definitely be at Triple Tree. Planning on arriving in formation with the Lockheed Electra. That's the one that was used in the movie Amelia. It's not really the one that Amelia died in. We tried to get that, but so far, no luck. Let me tell you a little bit about the DC3. This concludes about a 5-day stretch working on this. We got everything done. Just routine maintenance, routine inspections, routine periodic stuff that has to be done. But the big thing is a guy named Nate Calvin called me. He's been a fan for a long time. Big, huge GA guy, GA supporter. I had no idea who he was, but he called me about once a week for a long time, talking about airplanes, things like that. And then he finally said, he asked me, he said, what do you got for landing lights from the DC3? And I said, well, I got landing lights. He goes, how'd you like some LED landing lights? And I said, well, yeah, but they're expensive. I can't afford that. And he goes, give me your address. And I said, for what? And he said, just give me your address. Turns out Nate Calvin owns Aero LEDs and he loves the DC3. He hooked me up with a set of landing lights and beacon. I don't have the beacon installed yet, the tail beacon installed yet, but these landing lights are crazy bright, and I'm hooked up to a park cart. I've had these LEDs on for like 2 hours out here, and at nighttime, I mean, you can light up the entire ramp with these LEDs. So I'm going to show you a little sequence of the DC3 on takeoff and what it looks like, but they are bright. And I noticed they don't consume any power. I mean, it doesn't flicker the voltage. In flight, when you turn the landing lights on, the amp meters don't even flicker. So I don't know what they're drawing, but STC PMA, it's legal for airplanes. Aero LED, thanks, Nate. I hope to meet you someday. And these, I'm impressed. I am duly impressed. We're going to hop in the airplane and take a look in the cockpit real quick and show you a couple things in the cockpit. Then we're going to get ready to do today's video. I got a lot to talk about on today's video, including Alaska, including the MiG crash, Charles Cook, the Texas thing. All that's got to be in here for tonight, and I haven't even shot it yet. I got to get home, get a shower, get a shave. I have been running on empty here the last 5 days in a row on the DC3. Let's hop in the DC3 and take a quick look. All right, for those of you that have never seen inside the DC3, I've posted a lot of videos. I've had this airplane about 22 or 23 years. I've shot a lot of video inside here, but this is the inside of it. I'm going to show you the cockpit in just a second, and then I promise we're going to get on to tonight's video. Actually, pretty good week in general aviation fatal accidents. Pretty slow week, so I got a little bit of room for some stuff in here today. But this is the inside of the DC3. This right here is where I keep my banjos and stuff. We carry a tremendous amount of musical equipment. In fact, this year at Triple Tree, we've got the whole band. We got a sound system. We've got Rob and Crystal coming up bringing the keyboards and stuff. We got Nate from Charleston bringing the acoustic sound system. We got Toby on fiddle. We got a killer bass player. Still looking for a female lead singer that knows a lot of tunes that wants to sing with us. We're still short a female vocalist if you like to sing and can sing. That's the important thing. See us out there, and it's going to be a jam karaoke thing is all it is. It's not a concert. We're just going to play music and have fun. Inside the airplane, here's sleeping bags. That's where I normally sleep. It's got seats for travel here, and it's very comfortable. The whole cabin is super soundproof, rigged with lighting and everything that you need here. And it's very, very quiet on on board when you're flying. So here's the cockpit right here. I'll show you what this thing looks like, and then I'm going to hook up and show you what the whole thing looks like while I got headsets on here. We'll do a little bit of talking before we get to tonight's video. I promise I'm going to get to tonight's video here in just a second. So here we are in the airplane. I know I'm filthy dirty. I'll get home and take care of all the stuff. I'm going to show you a quick cockpit tour, and then we'll finish up here. I do have a little bit of preemptive stuff to talk about real quick before we get back to shooting. You know, I'm going to shoot this thing at my house. I'll probably shoot it at about noon or 1 o'clock, and it'll still be on the air tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're still hanging with me here, let me know where you're checking in from in the comments and the live chat. That's always a lot of fun. And let me know what town you're in. Where in the world are you? Would be great to know. Anyway, this is the cockpit of the DC-3. It's a fantastic airplane, and I want you to know that, ironically, this airplane is at the heart of the matter in the Charles Cook, Texas thing. Charles Cook, ideally, he wants to own this airplane. And the reason I know that is because on June 29th, the hearing in Fort Worth, Texas, I was there. What they don't know yet until now is that I got there 2 hours early. They also don't know that I own a tremendous amount of video and audio recording capability, and I was in a public lobby. Charles Cook arrived with Dan Milliken, and they sat very near the courtroom door entrance. They proceeded to discuss this airplane, the registration history, and Charles's desire to own this airplane is what that's about. It would be interesting someday if it was possible. I'm not saying yes or no, but I'm going to tell you that Charles Cook and Dan Milliken and his attorney, Jim Kaiser, specifically discussed this DC-3, the registration, the history of it, and all of that kind of stuff in light of Charles Cook's hopes to someday own this airplane. Charles Cook is the guy who ran his mouth and told Scott Perdue that he had won a default judgment against me. That's how I found out I even had a default judgment against me. It's dirty pool in Texas. You can serve somebody via social media. This entire thing was completely contrived, and the appeal process has been started. The appeal will not decide the merits of this case. The appeal process is only going to determine whether or not Dan gets a trial or not. A trial is what they do not want to happen. As soon as you're into trial, you're into depositions, statements, affidavits, witnesses, all those kind of things. I can depose any of those guys who were out there at the runway the day 1472 crashed. Who was there? Who encouraged that takeoff? That airplane had a 65-horse engine, and it had already made at least one or maybe two failed takeoff attempts before the ill-fated flight where that father and son were killed. Was Charles out there? I'd like to know, but as soon as we're in a trial, we have the capability to discover all of that. That's how come, at all costs, they do not want a trial. A default judgment is what they engineered. That's what they got. The appeal process will not decide the merits of this case. The appeal is only going to ask for a trial. All across America, I want you to realize the entire situation is constant in the justice system. You have judges by default who are friends with attorneys who play golf and go to the same country club. It's not just Fort Worth, Texas. That's everywhere. That's how come the appeal process is so important, because when you kick it up to the appeal process, they have the ability to go back and ask, did this judge act fairly and impartially in the handling of this case? That's all that's going to happen here in the appeal process. In this particular case, there is no reason why I should not be afforded a trial to determine the merits of what I've been accused of. That's what they don't want. The appeal process works very good. Strategy-wise, it was laid out very clearly to me. You cannot fight this. If I had taken this through all the way through and asked for a trial and got defeated via the normal process, I wouldn't be afforded the appeal process. The way we have it set up now, a default judgment, I am able to appeal that, and then they can kick it back down. Then I can ask for a trial. So there's no use spending 50 grand when you know you're going to get handed it to you anyway. These small towns in America, it's not just Texas, it's the good old boy network. It's the judge, the attorney, all their cahoots, all their people, everybody in the legal profession. They've got it all together. You might as well not waste any time, money, and effort on the first process. Let them have what they want, and then appeal it, and then you've actually got something. I trust the integrity of the appeal process, and that's going to be where we have to go with this, and that's how come it's like that. All right, I'm going to quit talking about that. I'm going to show you the rest of this cockpit here. It is a fantastic airplane, and I'll show you with this GoPro camera here. Here's the cockpit right here, and it's got a lot of buttons and switches up here. Some of them I know what they're for, and some of them I don't. But the amp gauges right here don't even flicker when you turn these LED lights on. Here's the throttle quadrant. This is mixture, propellers, throttles and propeller controls. This is your elevator trim right here. Everything works really good. It's a fantastic airplane, and I hope to see you at Triple Tree, specifically Saturday morning about 10 o'clock, 10:30. We'll be drinking coffee at the DC-3. If you'd like to hang out with us, we'll have lawn chairs. We're going to hang out under the wing Saturday morning at the airplane right here at Triple Tree. It'll be parked right next to the Lockheed. Come over, bring a cup of coffee, bring me a cup of coffee, and I'll see you there. Let's get back to the video for tonight. Now my next task here is to sequence this song with the landing lights coming on the DC-3. The Aero LED landing lights have got to come on at the exact right time. I think I can do it. Do you hear the bluegrass? I think I do. Here it is. 1, 2, ready, go. How was that? Wasn't that cool? Dan Grider, Probable Cause. It is September 17, 2023. Glad to have you with us tonight. Another Sunday evening YouTube special put together and brought to you by yours truly. I put a lot of effort into these and create them all. They're for free. Hopefully you won't see any advertising on this, but it's my quest to lower the general aviation fatal accident rate in America. Are we doing any good? I think we might eventually start to. It's going to take a long time, but I'm satisfied to help us be more aware of the accidents. Am I always right? Not necessarily. But most of the time, some of these things are pretty easy to figure out. I think we can increase safety and cause more prevention by being more aware of what the previous guy did. A total of 5 general aviation fatals since I last sat in this chair. I'll go over those here with you directly. Here they are on the screen. We will get to those in just a minute, but here they are on the screen. A couple other show and tell items here for you tonight. I'm going to get to this right here. This is fascinating, and we will get to that eventually. First up, this week's out of gas customer, November 75, here's a picture of it, 7479 Whiskey in Missouri. Made a takeoff out of gas is what they're telling me. Tried to bring it back around, almost made it. The guy's okay, but he didn't have any gas in his tanks when he took off. I'm still mesmerized as to how this could be happening. How can you make a takeoff in your airplane with no gas in your airplane? You think about it, after takeoff, you're going to be in the air. Taking off with no gas constitutes a real serious problem immediately after takeoff. How about if you drop a credit card in there and put 10 gallons in? If you're just going to go around the pad, or just put in just put in enough to make sure that you can at least get the thing in the air and up to a safe altitude or something. It's just crazy. Well, tonight we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. I'm going to do them in a particular order here, but we got some stuff to talk about. Namely, it's going to be Alaska 1288. The NTSB initial preliminary came out on that. I got a lot to say about that. The MiG crash up in Michigan, I got more to say about that. I'm not a ejection seat expert, but I do have an opinion. I am a dad. My opinion counts. These are American lives on the ground. Innocent, public American lives and families on the ground. I think we have some things to think about. I'm going to show you a little bit of footage that you just won't believe. And I'm going to talk about a previous ejection accident that did not work out very well at all. I don't think we learned very much off of that at all. Then also, continuing on down the list here, after the Alaska 1288 and the MiG, we have a special situation that occurred out in Phoenix regarding American Airlines in Southwest. I'm going to dive in and show you that a little bit. I know I'm diving a little bit more into the 121 stuff here, but I'm just going to touch on these. They'll have to do with human factors, mistakes that were made, and things that we could probably do different. I'm going to touch on those. Also, I'm going to show you the Manaus crash where the 14 people died here just yesterday down in South America. That was a Banarani aircraft, and that did not work out well. All 14 on that airplane died. So let's get into it. Here it comes. Alaska 1288. The date was August 20, 2023. Alaska Airlines comes in from Seattle. Hurricane Hillary had already come through, leaving a lot of trashy weather, rain, high winds, stuff like that. A lot of flights had already diverted. Alaska was running late, so they elected to land after curfew, which is okay. I think they got permission. I don't have a problem with them landing after curfew. Causes a few other little wrinkles in there as well, but I note that they were like the only arrival within a 2-hour window there. I looked there, they were the only one, and I'm not sure why they elected to do that. Now, the NTSB report has come out. NTSB has taken a hard stance and called this not a hard landing based on G's of 1.71. We're going to step through and talk through that a little bit. And also, was it a hard landing? I think it's a hard landing, and I take exception to flight crews who say that because they have to go into an area that they can spank it in hard and make a hard landing and try to stop. You'll fly a stabilized approach to a normal landing. I think the Boeing manual says that a firm landing is allowed, which means that you don't want to keep power and float down the runway and go for a buttery landing. A firm landing without bounce is perfectly acceptable. Spanking it in and smashing it in hard to hit the first brick, that is not acceptable. Let's read from the NTSB report here. I got it up on the screen here for you to see here. It says the flight crew reported that there was moderate rain, shifting winds, light turbulence, and instrument meteorological conditions until the aircraft broke out at about 800 feet above the ground. It goes on to say the FO during the approach continued to monitor the flight status, noting that the aircraft was on speed and on path. During the descent, all systems were operational, and the landing gear position indicators were green, indicating both main landing gear and nose gear were in the down and lock position. The airplane crossed the end of the runway on glide path and touched down just past the 1,000-foot marker. Foul. I disagree. The threshold crossing height for this approach is 68 feet. That's abnormally high. The airplane, I have reviewed this video. The airplane did not touch down. I'm going to show you a graphic here. This is the allowable touchdown zone. This aircraft touched down early. They crossed the threshold. Their threshold crossing height was significantly lower. They were allowed to touch down anywhere in this area right here. I think they touched down here. And if you notice, what happened here was that this main landing gear slammed in, and about a second later, that's when it finished breaking through. The engine did not contact instantly. It hit, and then it broke, and then it went up through the top of the wing, and then the engine nacelle contacted. Was it a hard landing? Here's a guy named Russ Amer to give you his video input on whether or not it was a hard landing. This guy, Russ Amer, apparently is a world-renowned expert. Let's listen to Russ's interview.
They didn't know it was going to be so hard.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite a sight to see. I mean, it's terrifying just to watch. I can't imagine being one of the 112 people on board this plane.
It
was a terrifying moment on this plane bound for Orange County.
Unfortunately, this particular landing was not successful.
Captain Ross Amer is a retired pilot and aviation expert. Could the pilot have known this was going to happen before they landed?
Obviously not. They didn't know it was going to be so hard, and otherwise they would have gone around.
Orange County has a short runway, and under these conditions, he says LAX would have been his choice.
Now we're going to continue on reading the next paragraph. Look down here at the bottom of this thing. It says, according to the captain, upon landing, the touchdown had a firm jolt feeling to it, and the aircraft was pulling reasonably hard to the left. Well, the firm jolt feeling is him smashing that main landing gear down. Now, I'm going to show you this right here, show and tell. They keep talking about this pin. This is a cylinder out of a DC-3. This is an 1830 cylinder. This is what goes up and down inside of a cylinder. This is the piston. This is where the rings go. Right here is the connecting rod, and it's broke right here. This is a wrist pin that goes inside of the piston. What it does is it connects through here, goes right through the middle of this, and this thing right here is designed to take a load. This thing has a fail-safe point on it called a knuckle. If anything's going to fail, it's going to fail right here. And this one did. I have never seen a wrist pin fail. I'm sure that they can. But if you're going to tell me, NTSB, if you're going to tell me that this was a buttery landing and the crew did everything perfect, then that means we've got about 8,000 wrist pins out there flying around that are defective. Now, the job of the NTSB is supposed to be to issue recommendations. Well, I would recommend, if this is a meteorological failure and an actual failure of a pin that caused this and everything else was normal, if the crew did everything perfect and it was a buttery landing and everything's totally good and this thing simply failed, well, we have a problem. That's a huge problem. I've never seen a wrist pin break. Now, this wing, when it failed, remember the Boeing wing is designed to fail with a known point of failure just like this. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It drove the landing gear up and through the wing. The reason it does that is so that it does not interrupt the fuel supply. It takes that main landing gear, it fails at the breakaway point, it shoves it up through the top of the wing, and it does not broach the fuel tanks, which is what it's supposed to do. I want you to notice the data here from the NTSB. A red check box here in this thing, no recommendation. And look under docket right here. No docket. Notice NTSB has not produced a docket. Now at this time, I'm going to read the DTSB report here. This is concerning accelerometers. They quoted a 1.71 on the accelerometer, so we're going to talk about accelerometers for just a second. Let's take a look at this. An in-flight accelerometer may be used to determine that a landing was a hard landing, but cannot be relied upon to determine that it was not. There's only one in-flight accelerometer sensor, and it is not located at the point of impact on top of the left main landing gear. The in-flight accelerometer, which is a G meter, only samples G loads a few times per second. The purpose of the accelerometer is to record uniform flight loads placed on the aircraft in flight, such as during maneuvering or turbulence. That's what the accelerometer is really for. The Boeing true measure of a hard landing is defined in terms of FPS, feet per second, where 60 feet per second is the max allowed. The CVR and FDR, which is cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder data, should be disclosed in the NTSB docket that will show crew conversation, any JIPWIS warnings, and IVSI, which is instantaneous vertical speed rate of descent during the instant of impact. So, what was the IVSI in the previous microsecond right before it touched? What were they at? That's going to be in the FDR. I wager to say that NTSB will never release that to the public. I don't think they're ever. That's what we got to see. It's their obligation to publish that, put it in the docket, let us see that. I'm not sure why we're talking about this 1.71 being safe. 1.71 doesn't have anything to do with it. How many feet per second were they? Jennifer, tell us that. And also, I want you to know that Jennifer Hamady, chair of the NTSB, she is a college graduate. Yes, she is. She has a bachelor's degree. She does not have a master's. You're supposed to have a master's degree to hold that position. She doesn't have it. Currently, they're one board member short at the NTSB, and she is an aircraft investigator. She is an aircraft investigator by title. They appointed her to be an aircraft investigator. It's every bit as ridiculous as me being a doctor. And if you need a knee replacement, you come and see me because I have a stethoscope and they called me a doctor. It's the exact same thing. Now we're going to talk about the big crash. I've talked about it at length before. Two big divides, black and white, hemispherical, on how you want to think about this thing. You fighter pilot types, ejection seat experts, that's all really cool. When you're operating your fighter jet over in some third world country and you get shot down and you want to eject over the sand, I think that's perfectly good. You're flying a experimental Russian plane for profit with a for-profit company for an air show over U.S. airspace, over our civilians, totally different deal. You need to commit when you're flying over our friends and family. If you have anything wrong with the jet, you're not going to pull the handle until you're guaranteed that that jet is going to hit someplace off field where it doesn't hurt anybody, up to and including riding it in and sacrificing your own life. What is your own life worth in order to save 10, 20, 50, 100 other lives? I don't get it. I don't see how this is even possible. I don't see how air shows allow these experimental aircraft to fly over our friends and family, innocent public, with ejection handles where one guy at any whim can pull the handle. This jet did not stall. I want you to know that this jet almost landed itself, and this jet never lost power. They left the jet with the engine running. All controls were fully functioning. They could have just about belly landed this thing with the flare across the street, no problem. I don't know if they would have lived or not, but was the jet controllable? It was not going to stall. They were at the bottom of their ejection envelope, but they were not at the bottom of their slow flight envelope. They still had plenty of airspeed to control the airplane and not stall. I disagree with Mark's decision to pull that handle and save his own life. You give me your comments. You tell me what you think. But this is not war. I had a lot of times students would tell me, well, that's not how we did it in the Air Force. And I'd always say, well, you're not in the Air Force. This is how we're doing it here. If you want to go be back in the Air Force and do it the way the Air Force did it, then go do that. I'm going to talk about one other accident here. That's the T-28. Check out this footage. This is air show footage that you don't want to see. Don't look at this if you don't want to see it. Several people on the ground got killed. This is a T-28 with a barrel roll gone bad. Look at this. This thing goes over. And I want you to listen to the screaming afterwards. This thing hits, and the people on the ground are screaming. I've got one other topic along this lines of the ejection. The date was the date was October 20 of 1987. This guy named Mr. Teagarden is flying along with his Navy airplane. He has an engine failure 15 miles from Indianapolis. He requests emergency vectors to Indianapolis International. He shoots the visual approach for runway 5 left, comes out of the clouds, shoots a visual for 5 left. Guess what? He's messed it up. He's too high. Now he flies down 5 left, too high, and he decides to make a right turn and bring it back around. He messes it up, not enough energy. He's over a populated area, and he punches out. He leaves his jet at about 500 feet. Mr. Teagarden is totally fine. That jet smashes into the front of a Ramada Inn, kills about 14 instantly, wounded, scarred, maimed dozens for life. The burns off of that destroyed the hotel, destroyed cars, destroyed lives. It hit a bank, bounced up into the air, and direct entry hit into the front of this hotel. Mr. Teagarden saved his own life. That's really nice, but you're flying over our friends and family. You had the option to put this jet somewhere else when you were 15 miles away. You're the one that messed up the approach. You're the one that aimed towards a populated area, and you're the one that pulled the handle to save your own life. I disagree with the concept. I know he's a Navy guy. If that had been my kids you had killed in that airplane that day, it would be a different deal. The Navy went on to exclude all blame and totally wrote off. I think they gave the hotel $50,000 in damages and cleared him of all wrongdoing in this jet. Because he had an engine failure and he punched out and he lived, they cleared him of all wrongdoing. I think the military and our air shows need to start looking at all this stuff completely differently. When you're flying over populated civilian areas, it's a different deal. These are our wives, kids, brothers, husbands, friends, relatives down here. We do not deserve to have our lives destroyed by this guided missile burning jet fuel thing that's going to come flying in and explode into our homes and apartments and buildings. I think it's completely wrong. I think you guys, I'd like to hear what your opinion is on this, but I think there should be no more ejection seat Russian experimental airplanes with non-qualified observers on board. I don't like the whole thing. I noticed that we have not heard a word out of Dan Filer. He's the guy that owned the airplane. He was the pilot in command. He was the guy that was most surprised when he found himself outside of the airplane. Not a word out of him. I put in a word to him, no response. I am waiting to hear the Dan Filer side of the story and what he thought and who's going to clean up all the damage. Several $100,000 in damage to this apartment building, cars, units, cleanup, the whole thing. Who's paying for all of that? I want to know. Now, here's an interesting one. Just happened out in Phoenix. American Airlines takes off at runway 26. Runway 26, there's 3 runways in Phoenix Sky Harbor International. 3 long runways. They're basically oriented east-west. 26 is up on the north side of the complex. 25 right, 25 left are on the south side. So 2 jets leave simultaneously at almost the exact same time. 2 different controllers, one working the north side, one working the south side. Ironically, both jets leave at the exact same time. I have an excellent clip here put together by my friend Victor at Vast Aviation. Did a really nice job of explaining this thing. I'm going to show you a little bit of the detail here, but the problem is that this airplane, this American Airlines, was originally given a different runway. Then he was sent to 26. They never changed his departure and his departure instructions. I think he was flying the old departure and the old assignment off of what he had before when he got sent up to 26. I think this is an ATC error, and the two departures, Forpay 1 and Broke 1, are completely different, but I'm going to put a graphic up here and show you what happened. The pilot in the American on the right side, on the north side, he turned left into southwest. They were only 3,500 feet apart to start with. They're both 737s. They both have the same climb, the same speed. They were basically a formation takeoff. I disagree with formation takeoffs. I think prior to departing any RNAV SID departure at any international airport, you ought to read back your SID, your assigned SID, and your first fix just to make sure we don't have any problems before you ever push the throttles up. I don't think that ever happened for either airplane. I couldn't find in any tape where they ever read back prior to takeoff what their assigned departure and first fix was. We're going to fix this. In any case, the American turned left. I will say that the departure controller did a very nice job very quickly getting to work and getting those airplanes apart and getting them separated. The controller actually saved the day. I think ATC caused this. I think ATC saved the day. I'd like to get your opinion. I haven't studied it extensively. You're open to changing my mind if there's something in here that I'm not understanding, but I think this was a very, very close call. I think we just about put 2 airplanes into each other. I think we just about did a Tenerife in the air out here in Phoenix, and it was a very close call. You probably didn't hear about it, but I watched it the day after it happened, and then I was very happy to see Vast put together a very nice graphic. Let's take a look at the Vast graphic here right now. I'm going to show this to you next.
Runway 26, over takeoff, American 1388. South 2026 in your southbound turn, contact departure. Departure, good day. American 1388, contact departure, good day.
Departure American 1388. No departure American 1388, 2000, climb to Broke 1.
American 1388, Phoenix departure, verify 4P1 departure.
4P1 departure American 1388. We're doing the Broke 1 American 1388.
9 o'clock, less than a mile, same direction, Boeing 737, 3000. Do you have a traffic in sight?
26 says American in sight.
2286, okay. If you need to turn left, immediately do so. 1388, Phoenix.
Go ahead.
1388, traffic alert, 9 o'clock, less than a mile, Boeing 737, 3000. Do you have a traffic in sight?
Yeah, affirm, we have American 1388.
I'm sitting right there. Do you see the traffic?
Affirm, American 1388.
So there you have it. The American guy, he read back when asked. He read back what departure and said he was doing. He thought he was doing the right one. I really think he got sent to 2-6 very late in the game, and they never changed his RNAV SID departure, and he was still flying the one previously assigned for 2-5 right, which would have worked if he was on 2-5 right, but not a good idea on 2-6, turning into another airplane when they were launching simultaneously at the exact same instant. Isn't that crazy? You know, I'll put that video up. It's still up. The DTSB, the formation of the DTSB, we are working on that. If you would like to be a part of the voluntary DTSB organization, our voluntary board members, we've raised, just in a few days, I raised $11,680. Here's the top contributors towards that. I don't know if it's going to be tax deductible yet. Eventually it will be. I think it takes a few months to get a 501c3. We're working on that. I got a couple CPAs and quite a few pilots, quite a few attorneys that are helping with all that. I have a bandwagon of people. We asked for $10,000. We went right straight through $11,680 on this thing. I think it's going to be good to get people who want to make a tax-deductible gift towards the DTSB. That money goes into a separate fund in a separate state, not touchable by me. The money gets spent, and unlike AOPA, any expenditures that come out of the DTSB fund are going to be public. Every penny that comes in and every penny that goes out, we're going to publish what we spent our money on and where that money went towards the DTSB. We've got a lot of problems to take care of. The Part 16 thing is still going on in Griffin. I'm going to show you a little bit of footage here from Griffin, Georgia that will just shock you. Griffin, Georgia is a Part 16. If you've got an airplane and cannot find hangar space, it's because the FAA is not doing their job. Grants and Assurances says that you can't do all this garbage. Store trailers, have truck places, all this stuff on airports inside of hangars. That's federally funded airport money, airport grants. You got to have an aeronautical activity at the airport. Your Part 16 complaint makes them straighten that out. The problem is that it's very complicated and people don't know how to do it. That's how come we're doing ours. We're going to be publishing our first FAA Part 16 complaint here in the very near future. Griffin, Georgia is in big trouble. Most of the airport there is already overrun with ridiculous stuff. You can't get a hangar there because they're all full of this garbage, ridiculous, unrelated, non-aeronautical aviation usage down there. If you're one of those guys, I'm truly sorry, but this is our airport. These are our boys, those are our hangars, and those are our airplanes. We got to have a place to work on them and keep them. That's what our airport is for. That's what our national airspace system is for. You guys running your Bitcoin garbage and these hair salons and all this kind of stuff out of our hangars, take it somewhere else. Go to the strip malls and go move your business someplace else, but not to the airport. This is where we keep our airplanes. This is where we maintain our airplanes, and this is where we fly. This is what our airport is for. Support me on the DTSB, the federal FAA Part 16 complaint. That's all being handled via my consulting friends down in Florida and attorneys. I've got 4 attorneys working on this now. I think it's going to be really, really good. Remember, I'm about to get into the accidents here for the month of September, the 5 that have occurred. That's the DTSB. I don't ever touch that money. If you want to contribute $1 or $2, very small, towards these efforts, it takes me a lot of time and effort to put all these videos together. You can do that, and I appreciate that. Keep your donations small. If I get 100 or 200 people per video to give me $1, that's more than good enough. I can buy tacos and a hotel and a little bit of gas money to get around, and I'm doing a tremendous amount of traveling right now, and that definitely helps me a lot. Cover some basic expenses. Keep it small, keep it affordable. Don't go crazy on anything like that. That is not tax deductible. That's going towards my expenses. Here's the ways to do it: Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. Those of you who have donated in the past, I certainly appreciate it. Now let's get into the accidents. I'm going to put them up on the screen here for you. The very last one here that we have is the Sonics in Michigan. This was Richard Martin. He was 68 years old. I'm sorry, he was 83 years old. He took off a week ago today. It took him 4 days to find it. He had some kind of a problem, crashed in the forest. He was the only person on board. This is up in Michigan. The next one, November 710 Tango Yankee. This is the Thrush out in North Dakota. Power line application situation, flew into the power line. This is a spray applicator. I don't have a name. One on board. This is a turbine Thrush out there. Then the Air Coupe in Georgia. I almost went down to see this one. This is 2796 Hotel and Air Coupe in Georgia. The guy's name was Jack Summers, 68 years old. He actually crashed his Air Coupe in town here on a road. I'm not sure if he had an engine failure and was trying to land on the road or what he was doing. I'll eventually get the details on that, and I'll update as I'm able to. We're really sorry. I knew a lot of people down there that knew Jack, and he was a great guy. It was a great airplane. I'm not sure how you kill yourself in an air coupe, but he did, and the impact, there was actually 2 in that airplane. One guy survived, and Jack, the pilot and the owner, he died. So maybe the other guy on the airplane can tell us exactly what happened eventually. Here's the last one, and that is, just happened. It's the C-1, which is a seaplane out in the state of Washington, November 5-7 Tango Juliet. They think it was a stall. One person died, and one person, I believe, is still alive. I'm not sure how you crash this airplane. They say that he was a maximum height of 50 feet and kind of skimming off the water. They are telling me, I got one person out there who knows somebody that watched it happen that said that the engine wasn't making power. They were trying to take off, but the engine was not making power, and it tried several times to lift off and eventually stalled and hit nose first into the water. It flipped over. Here's video footage of the scene from out there, and horrible situation. You would think that on a wide open lake in a seaplane, you can always lower the nose and just land straight ahead and hook up to a boat and get towed back in. You would think. I'm not a seaplane guy, but it's hard to believe that you could even get killed on the open water in a seaplane with an engine failure. It's just astounding to me. Anyway, I got to get going. I got to get this video up and on the air. I'll look for you at Triple Tree. We're going to be, here's our location. If you go to the bus, Grant and Nadia's bus, just a little bit south of the shower houses down there, just go across the bridge. There's a couple tiny little ponds there. We're going to be there in the evening time, probably after dinner. We're going to play music. It's nothing official. We don't have a band. Actually, we do have a band. We got a complete sound system. We're bringing in a bunch of players. It's a lot of fun. Nothing official. Just hang around, enjoy a little bit of music. It's a little bit of karaoke. If you like to sing, you can probably help us out, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll be up on top of the hill eating dinner at the up on top of the hill with Pat and all those guys. Friday night and Saturday night. Look forward to seeing you up there. Get your tickets. Here's the website for it. Get your tickets for Triple Tree. We will be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think we're arriving in formation. The Amelia Earhart Lockheed Electra with the DC-3, I think, are arriving in formation, I believe. Friday around noon, probably, is best guess. Of course, they're old radial-powered airplanes. Anything can happen, but that's the best guess that we got as of right now. I'll be in the river in the afternoon swimming and jumping off the cliffs and all that kind of stuff like I normally do, and probably flying some airplanes and having some fun. I'll see you guys out there Saturday morning at the DC-3. We're going to hang around the DC-3 Saturday morning and drink coffee out there. So wherever the DC-3 and the Lockheed are, I'd love for you to come by and drink coffee with us Saturday morning at the DC-3. Got to get out here. I'm going to get this video up and on the air for my tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel. Dan Grider, Probable Cause.